Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Earth Station Who podcast. That's right, folks. My name is Mike Faber. I'm the host of the show, and we're doing a live show tonight, folks. This is going to be awesome. We've got a great crew to talk all about. Ready for this, folks? Woke Who, how Doctor Who has always been woke. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk all about it, and we have let me introduce some of the folks. Of course, I couldn't do the show with Mr. Howdy himself, Mr. Mike Gordon.
Yawn. Howdy. I'm sorry, I'm just waking up for the show because, I guess you have to be awake for this.
Yeah, I think you might want to be awake for this one because, woke who, it's, and it's interesting. You never really ever see the doctor sleep.
No.
I hope my internet actually holds out for this because all of a sudden I'm getting, weak internet signal. Of course, because we're live. So
of course we're live. Yes, of course.
Of course. It's that case. But we got a great crew also with us. Let's welcome Mike Faulkner to the show. Howdy, sir.
Hey, how's this thing work again? I haven't been here for a while.
I know. You have to blow the dust off the microphone there. So.
Yeah, I know.
You're like going, how do I do this again?
Wait, which switches, which buttons? Is this thing on?
Exactly. Is this thing working? Hello. It's good to see you, Mikey.
You too.
We also have, of course, Dave Chapman.
Hello.
And, and of course, Melanie Dean is with us.
Hello,
Finally,
everyone.
she's back with us, folks.
I know. Sorry. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
It's good. Hello. And this is going to be interesting because we're going to have the live chat going, and we've got already people popping up saying, hi, guys. How you doing? So let's say hi to Ramona. Let's say hi to JD. Let's say hi to Jolie. And so it's going to be very interesting to see. Oh, Earth Station Boo is also, showing. Earth Station Boo is going to be one of the new shows joining the ESO network. Hush, hush, shh. Big secrets right now coming that way. But it's going to be very, very scary. So, it'll be very cool. And hopefully they'll do an episode about Count Floyd or something like that, which would be even better. So, all right, folks. Doctor Who. We are 2 weeks away, well, less than 2 weeks actually, from New Who. And it's going to be very interesting because a lot of people are already bitching and moaning about Judy and RTD and the so-called agenda that they have, and, or some people have even called it the woke agenda. So, and I'm like listening to these people talk, and it's like going, wait a minute. Have you been watching Doctor Who?
Wow.
An agenda of some kind and everything. So
Mike is freezing up.
He's freezing up badly. Oh no.
They got to him.
They got
me. The woke police have gotten me.
Got him.
Hold on. Yeah, this is crazy because it's funny. It's showing weak signal, but this is, of course, this is typical for Earth Station Who. This is just the way it goes.
You're sure the message doesn't say woke signal?
Yeah, exactly. It's the woke signal all the way. So, and but it's interesting. So I'm very curious to hear what you guys think about, Doctor Who's history, Doctor Who, and, where it comes from and why is it such an issue nowadays? Is it just society?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. That's the end of the show, folks. Dave said it.
Yes, it's just society.
It's society, and people have the memory of turnips sometimes and only can think about what's right here in their little blinders and not realizing that, no, this is always kind of done it. Maybe either you weren't old enough to catch on, depending on when you entered the Whoniverse, and maybe you were in your youthful years. you weren't cognizant of these things, but we'll be here to remind you gently that look, it's always been like
No.
this.
I think a lot of it is also kind of fear, right? Society is very rapidly changing. It has been in the last couple of decades, and a lot of the mainstays that you think of with science fiction, Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars, they've gone away from a rather homogenous kind of look to a more diverse kind of look, and there's been a lot more emphasis placed on diverse characters and diverse situations, and it seems like for a lot of the people who are most vocal about it, that they fear they're losing something when they don't quite realize that they're not losing anything. They're gaining a bigger stage, a bigger community to play with, right? You're bringing in a lot more viewpoints and stuff that it's bringing the world to you. It's opening your horizons. But it's that fear, I think, that's really pushing people to say, like, oh, you're taking away my thing that's been my thing forever.
Right. No, that totally makes sense.
And it's weird because a lot of people just don't seem to have realized Who, especially, but I mean Star Trek, any long-lived franchise has always had to adapt, and they are a reflection of the current times or they die.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that new Who has gone woke. Yeah, new Who.
Yeah.
I watched it with a younger Gen Z and a later Gen Alpha, and they didn't think it was at all woke. It was just daily life, like the new specials, the David Tennant and the Ncuti. It was that's just the way the world is. What are you talking about?
And exactly. And it's interesting with that, because how you said that, a lot of younger people, really liked the specials, and they really liked the Christmas special. They loved seeing Ncuti in a club, the doctor dancing and, just enjoying life. And it was just real interesting. It was a friend of mine whose kids started watching it during the 60th anniversary, was like going, this Doctor Who's finally talking to my generation.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's real interesting with that.
Well, and what you said about the way that it's reflecting everything, science fiction's purpose has been to reflect the human condition through the lens of metaphor, right? That is exactly what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to make you uncomfortable. It's supposed to make you look at yourself and say, this is what the world sees. And so it's really important right now that Doctor Who is reflecting the current generation, and that makes me feel fantastic that you've got that feedback. Hey, this is now my Doctor. Like, awesome. Yeah.
And this is coming from a teenage girl who is a massive David Tennant fan. Going, I love Ncuti. I love what I'm seeing here.
Nice.
Like it's she came into Who not because her dad watched it and David Tennant, and she's now watched almost everything he's been in, but she's going to come back and watch Ncuti.
No,
it's hers. It's them. It's their generation.
Yeah.
And Doctor Who, I fully admit it. I started Doctor Who in the 70s, with Tom Baker, and it's not the same show, but a lot of the messages are still the same that we got. And that's what makes it interesting, because the messages that Doctor Who puts out really has not changed over the years at all.
I mean, somewhat. I mean, I mean, you're right in saying, I think that's one of the reasons why, Doctor Who gets this sort of attention as well, because New Who in particular, and now, it is different an experience. Despite the fact that the roots started with a woman producer and a person of color who was directing the first episode, you'd think that's pretty amazing for the 60s, right? But if you look at the casting, and if you look at a lot of the stories over the most of the 50 years in classic Who, I mean, it's all, I mean, Doctor Who himself, Doctor Who was played by a white man all the time, right? And they didn't change that. The companions were always white. Like, I mean, and there was no diversity in the main cast whatsoever. I mean, sure, they had, guest stars of color starting from the Hartnell era, but it wasn't until, New Who where we got persons of color as introduced as companions, persons of color working behind the scenes to write and direct episodes, women directing episodes, and like it wasn't until New Who that was fully embraced. And I think that's one of the things that that we don't really thank Russell T enough for. Because when Russell T decided to take this franchise back then and reinvigorate it, he made a bold statement, as bold as he could at that time, to include a lot more diversity. And now that he's show running again, I'm glad that he's at the helm, because I knew that when he took the job again, that he wouldn't do so with the idea that he was going to play it safe again, that he was going to be bold, and that he was going to make statement. He was going to use this show to make statements, the way that, as Michael said, science fiction should make statements, right? Like, to make people feel uncomfortable. And I like the fact that, Ncuti is embracing that too. Recently he was quoted as saying, I'm not going to try to impersonate him, because that wouldn't do anybody any favors on that.
Dude, I would pay you $10 right now to do
No. I have too much respect. For the man. But basically, he said, I feel like anyone who has a problem with someone who's not a straight white male, white man playing this character, you're not truly a fan of the show. You've not been watching, because the show is about regeneration and the Doctor is an alien. Why would they choose only to be this sort of person? And I mean, he's absolutely right. And now the show's fully embraced that. Whereas I think before, for whatever reason, whether it was the BBC, whether it was who knows, like exactly who it was at the time, but they just were not brave enough to make those choices. And now they are. And it's amazing to be in this time where Doctor Who can really feel like it's moving forward.
Well, I know looking at the a lot of the queer perspective on things too, like the homosexuality was outlawed in the UK until 1967, and in Scotland until 1980. So a lot of the representation of any kind of queer aspects of that community had to be coded. They couldn't be out front. And so there's a lot of kind of sneaky hidden stuff laced through Doctor Who as well from that community. And I know exactly, Captain Jack. But I also know there were some rumblings, back around the Fourth Doctor era about, they could regenerate into a woman at that time. And you're right, they just weren't brave enough to pull the trigger, so to speak.
No, agreed with that. And it's interesting because they weren't brave enough to do it, and they played it safe with the, middle-aged white male for many, many, many years, going on 25, 30 years until, the new series. And you also had a Doctor who was very asexual also. And, with the new, not even the new series, because the Doctor Who movie opened that can of worms up, literally. It was I think you had the Doctor and Grace. Yeah.
It was even before that. Some of the Virgin New Adventure books started kind of playing with the idea too during the Wilderness Years. So,
are those canon? That's the whole thing,
You want to open that door?
That's another episode. That's a whole other episode.
Yeah, I think we've discussed it, whether or not we've done that. It's a canon thing before, but
right, because that opens up, the whole thing. How much fan fiction is out there? The Doctor and Captain Jack. Come on.
But I do think, speaking of whether it's canon or not, I do think it's kind of a nice thing that the Star Beast was recently brought to life in live action, because according to the things I was looking at research wise, the first reoccurring companion of color was introduced in the 1980 comic Doctor Who and the Starbeast. So
Yes.
it's kind of cool that is sort of, I mean, I know that that's not really reflected in the live action thing, but the live action, we do get, you know, some really bold statements as far as casting and characters as well. And I love the fact that Russell T is using this as a platform to do that. Yeah, I was so worried because, you know, even though we had a female doctor, white male companion, you know,
Exactly.
she was saddled with two white male companions, you know, as much as I love Graham, and you know I love Graham,
We all do, you know, all hail Graham, you know.
But you know, he I don't think he was necessary. I think it took away, and you know, I mean, I think we have to give Chibnall credit where I know I'm going to give him credit here. This is a big landmark event for this
16
show.
minutes and 46 seconds into the
but I'm not criticizing
April 30th.
I'm not criticizing it. Well, I criticized the casting or the putting in Graham, right? So I'm criticizing that. But then again, he gave us, you know, the first Doctor of Color.
That's true.
With
he
the
did.
fugitive, with the not fugitive
Ruth Doctor.
Ruth Doctor, yes. So I mean, you know,
I have trouble.
I, mean,
I have trouble calling her Dr. Ruth. I'm sorry. You
yeah,
know.
no.
That's a whole different story right there.
So,
but I'm sorry for anyone who does not get that joke.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I'm sorry for anyone who does.
Yeah. More like
we still don't know exactly how that means, what that means. It was really clunkily done and all of that. So, you know, I'll take as much credit away from it as I can. But you know, now we have someone in charge who is not. I knew that was going to be a thing, and I'm glad because it gets people excited and seeing things that they haven't seen before. It gets people who haven't been represented on the show represented. I mean, it opens up the door, the TARDIS door, for a whole new like generation of people. And it's the only way, as critical as it is to be woke, it's the only way that you can survive now and get people, because you cannot just survive on just like the conservative base alone. You can't.
No, you can't.
No.
Business-wise,
No.
you can't.
Nope.
No, you have to be open to everyone, but you also have to be open to new ideas. And that's the wonderful thing about Doctor Who. Over 60 years now, it always was changing. It always evolved. And the characters evolved. The thinking of the show evolved. And, you know, it could have easily gone off the air, you know, after 5 seasons. You know, they were thinking about it. Because, you know, when Hartnell after Hartnell, you know, got ill and he really couldn't do the show anymore, they thought about, you know, do we recast or do we just end the show? And they took a chance and they evolved the show even further by bringing Patrick in. And then when Patrick decided to leave, they didn't even have anybody hired at that point. That's why they didn't show a regeneration scene. They were even thinking of ending it there, showing, you know, when they were showing all the different faces and the Doctor faded out into it, they were going, the Doctor's out there. He could be anybody, you know, type thing. So, and it was just very interesting to see. And then you also had the modern take of the companions throughout the series and everything, you know, just to see what modern culture was like at the time.
It's really one really good comparison for that is going to be Melanie Bush being back.
Yes.
If you go back and look at her with Colin Baker, and then you look at her character now, they're completely they're completely different characters. Thank goodness.
Yes.
But she's grown, and that character has grown so much.
I do not want to hear her bring up carrot juice once. I do not want to hear that.
I want it, but just once.
Okay.
just for the joke of it.
Yes.
Exactly.
But it's just interesting because the series, as it grew and as the series went along, it, brought in, topics and storylines dealing, clouded by, the sci-fi aspect of it, but of what was going on in current society at the time.
Mhm.
And that's what's great about it and everything, because you had that. And, you had things, you had things going on with, a hidden version of Margaret Thatcher, or you had something going on with the tax system, or you had
Mhm.
something, and it was just amazing to see.
Kevin's
So,
got a really good point in the comments there. Can you imagine the reactions if the first regeneration happened now? People would
William
lose
Hartnell would have
their
been
minds.
really, really frippin' old.
In general, yes, that's valid. But that being said, it's a valid point. People look at the slightest change rate now and lose their minds.
Oh, of
Something
course.
that drastic. I mean, we see it every regeneration to a certain extent. We all joke about the cycle of bad doc. Oh, my favorite doctor's gone. I hate this. This is terrible. Oh, I kind of like this. I like this doctor. Oh no, this doctor's gone.
gone.
But
Exactly.
we've gotten
Uh,
used to that over 60 years.
Well, exactly. And especially with the cycle of 3 and done, which is, fairly common. There's only been 2 doctors so far who've been more than 3 years or
Mhm.
3 seasons.
Mhm.
And, technically you could even add David to that. So, because he did the specials in
Yeah.
his first run. But
3 of
so,
them. 3 and
Three and
so
done.
yeah, exactly. 3 and done. Boom. And I'm hoping Shooty's going to break that cycle. I really hope so. And he's saying he's not going anywhere, which is awesome. Fingers crossed, toes crossed, cross my eyes, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think, but that's the cool thing about, Doctor Who is I've seen the same diagram. It's like literally it's the snake eating its own tail. And so
But
it
it's
just
it's
goes
it's
over and
cool
on.
that Doctor Who was clever enough to incorporate that as part of the show. Because
Mm.
look, we've all seen, who's going to play Batman in this new incarnation, who's going to be James Bond, who's going to be Sherlock Holmes, like the characters now. I think we've had 5 different actors play Captain Kirk, or James T. Kirk, I should say, or Spock or whatever. So now new people coming in and playing these characters is not a new concept. So I don't think, with Doctor Who, if it was introduced today, people would freak out. I just think that people would be like, hey, they incorporated it in the show, because we're all used to if you watch any sort of television or movies in the last, since I've been alive, you're used to like the concept of recasting.
Oh, sure. But the thing with that is, we've already seen, even on Doctor Who, you've seen 3 different versions of the first Doctor.
Mhm.
Right.
So on
Yeah.
screen.
And
That's not even including Big Finish.
and even though they weren't bold enough to radically change things, they made sure that the doctors weren't like, when they first did that regeneration, they didn't try to find someone who looked and acted like William Hartnell did.
No,
they went for somebody really different. So give them credit for that, not just trying to keep that sort of image and intact, but instead going a different route. And then with the subsequent Doctor casting, they went something different. They went for something different. They didn't go maybe to the extreme, but they are all different. If you look at all the Doctors, you're not going to mistake one for the other. Like people that played the Doctor, you're not going to mistake any of them for one another.
But
No, definitely not. And now we are officially a cat video. Thank you.
You're welcome. Cat alert. Hello, Petrie. The internet loves you.
Mhm.
Well, and we
Yeah.
have seen some of the freakouts that you would expect for regeneration anyway.
Yeah.
When it was Matt Smith to Peter Capaldi, it's like, oh, he's too old, and then to Jodie Whittaker, oh, it's a woman. It's a game over. Doctor Who's dead, and now it's, oh, you're gender bending my doctor, or you're race bending my doctor, So what's wrong with this whole system?
And right before that, Michael, when Matt was signed, it was like, oh, he's too young. Like he's going to be like, if they keep
Yeah.
going this way, he's going to be like 10 years old. Like pretty soon, like they're going to get a kid. So
you
you
can never
can't-
win.
Yeah, you can't.
Capaldi was too old.
No
Well,
matter
it
what
was-
you do. And
Yeah,
I think that's
cool.
the first rule as a showrunner. You have to just go, what the first rule is, like, whatever happens and whatever you do, you're not going to please everybody.
No, exactly. And that's the interesting thing with it is I remember when they, cast Matt Smith because, they're getting younger because Matt was in his 20s when he was hired to do Doctor Who. And they were joking about it that, who's going to be next? Daniel Radcliffe or, something like that. And it's just like, which I think Daniel would have made a great doctor, but,
I think he still would.
yes, exactly. He played Weird Al, so why not play the Doctor? It's perfect. So, I think it's going to be very interesting to do. Hell, I wouldn't mind seeing. I want to see more female actors as a Doctor. That's the one great thing about Doctor Who now. Anybody can be the Doctor, unless you're American. But if you're,
Yeah, that's right out.
Yeah.
That's unheard of.
That's
No,
the 100th
never.
anniversary special.
Exactly.
And we saw this as early as the first Romana's regeneration, right? Where the second Romana tried on a whole bunch of different faces and stuff, and one of them was actually a completely different, like an alien, different alien than Gallifreyan, our Time Lord, but was an alien who's a completely different color. Like, but how about this? So it's not unheard of. It's baked into the show.
Well,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's canon. And they showed, female Time Lords when they went to Gallifrey. They had female Time Lords. They had Time Lords of other races and such. And why does the Doctor even have to look human?
Yeah. They don't
So-
have to.
Budget.
No.
No, I mean, he's not human.
Budget. That's true.
She's not
CGI
human.
is getting cheaper, so
It's true. They have Sony
Yeah.
money now.
Yeah,
Disney money.
exactly. Sony and Disney money. Come on, hello.
But I also think that, I think an indicator too is that they usually test the waters by casting like whoever they're going to cast as the master, right? So before we got a female doctor, we got Missy, and before we got a doctor of color, we got
The Spy Master,
yeah, thank you.
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you. I was blanking on his name. So, it
Well,
almost is almost like, depending on who's going to play the master next, maybe that's going to foretell who will be the doctor
Well,
next.
The
The
thing
Doctor
is,
always follows.
we could have easily gotten a Doctor of color instead of Matt Smith because Patterson Joseph was one of the finalists. And he would have been awesome. And, seeing things he's done, he's awesome. And I think he would have made a great character. But I love that we got Matt, of course, but
Yeah. And your point about the master preceding the doctor as far as the changes go, it reminds me of a discussion out of my wife last week, and of course Russell T Davis dashed those hopes, but I was like, oh, we're getting a character played by Jinx Monsoon called the Maestro in the second episode of this upcoming season. Maestro, Master, I wonder. And then it was like, no, the Master's shelved. For like, oh, come on.
Yeah, but do we trust him?
Right.
no,
Never
Exactly.
trust him.
no. In Russell T, we cannot trust,
To be fair,
I think
probably
that's where-
Jinx is probably named Maestro just to mess with our heads.
Yes.
Oh, of course.
Mhm.
Of course. But do I think we'll see a master this season? A version of it? Maybe. But I don't think it's gonna be what we're expecting. And that's what I want to see. I want to be surprised. And and this is not, I do not want this episode to turn into a speculation of what we're gonna want to.
Right.
We've got that coming in a couple weeks, folks. So we have, that's all coming. So let's keep it closer to on topic this week. So I know for us saying that that's just weird anyway, but it's neat to see what we're getting with the people bitching and moaning when you guys made the comment earlier that, you know, Shooty was like saying, you know, it's appropriate, you know, to have, you know, a doctor of color, a doctor, a female doctor, and everything. And that's, you know, if you're a fan of the show, you should expect that. We had people bitching and moaning. I've had to delete some folks from the group because of the racist and the homophobic comments we were getting for it.
Yeah, because
And
his statement, they felt threatened, they felt insulted, because he was saying, like, you know, you're not truly a fan of the show if you think that the doctor, you know, should just be a straight white man. And they're like, but I've loved, you know, Tom Baker. You can't say that. Like, they just they're holding on to, you know, what they knew, and they can't accept change. And then there's that whole mentality. I commented the other day. I put up a post because I had just watched a show that's tangentially related to Doctor Who called The Dead Boy Detectives. It's got a Neil Gaiman connection there, so I guess we'll be clinging to that. But anyway, I posted my review of it, and I thought the show's okay. I think it's okay. I think, you know, people should check it out, especially if they're Doctor Who fans. I think there'll be a lot to like there. But I didn't mention anything about, you know, color of any of the actors, cast of characters, sexual preference, anything like that, because that's not my deal. I don't do that. That's not my thing. But someone commented on my review and said, my problem is like, well, my question is, why does there have to be so many gay characters? There's like 9 or 10 gay characters. Everybody's gay. It doesn't, what does that happen? What does that have to do with anything? Like, why does that have to happen? You know? And first of all, I pointed out that in my opinion, gay is not a criticism, a valid criticism of a show, of a person, of a character. That's not a valid criticism, in my opinion. So, and then second of all, it wasn't even that big a deal. Like, it wasn't like there wasn't that many people. They felt there was too many for them. You know, minority characters.
Yeah, of course.
It was still like not even half the cast of characters. But yet that person couldn't see that because all they saw was that. And they still look at people. There's a lot of people that still do that. And that I don't know what the you know, the fix is for that. I don't think there is a fix, a quick fix, because there are always going to be people like that. And and it's unfortunate that people are not seeing, they just want to see themselves, or, you know, and that's ironic because they don't want other people to see themselves, right?
Exactly.
Right.
These are the people who absolutely abhor hearing the words representation matters, but yet they are the ones that cling to that so much, because in reality, they want to just see what they've always seen, which is typically straight white men in those roles. So when they see something that isn't, it's like, hey, it's somebody else's chance to actually see themselves. And because you're not seeing that, what I would say everybody else is just having to be used to is going, okay, as, you know, white female, I'm used to not seeing me or females being the lead as much. Probably the same thing goes for everybody else who hasn't gotten to see themselves into a role. But yeah, it to me, it's that, to your point, it's representation matters, but they don't see it. Right. They don't internalize it.
It's utter hypocrisy.
It's
it's very much
just like the term, like, you know, the term woke was actually something that started in the 30s. It was actually something that, you know, I believe the African American community clung to and everything like that. And then, but the conservatives have twisted it into an insult, you know, which is to me like the most ridiculous thing, because it's like the very definition of the word is that we are awake and aware of things. Like, why would that be an insult on any planet, right? Like, if you are not woke, that means you are asleep, right? Like, why would anybody want to cling to that as a criticism? And yet that's what I see the term woke now being used more by the wrong people, if you will, the wrong sentiments, than I do
for
like
the wrong reasons. For the wrong reasons.
Like, yeah, I mean, I don't think you don't see Russell T going like, "Hey, everybody, I'm gonna make Doctor Who woke." Like, they just don't talk like that. Like, but the criticisms are, yes, it is.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's fascinating to me that the critics that are so venomous about it are paying just enough attention to be able to weaponize it, because, like you said, it was a term that was in the 1930s. It was both African Jamaican and then also African American, to pay attention to social and political norms and to figure out, where the prejudices were and how to avoid them, how to keep track of yourself, right? And normally I would say, well, terminology can change over time, but nearly a century later, Black Lives Matter happened, and they used the term woke, right? And they used it in that same context, so it has the same meaning. And it's such an interesting dynamic to me, because it's that cultural misappropriation again, which we've seen throughout history, where it's like, well, I'm going to take this, I'm going to use it as a bludgeon against you for the very same thing you're fighting for.
Right. No, and that totally makes sense. And it's, people are so hypersensitive about everything these days. And, people are not willing to talk it through or not have civil discussions like we are right now.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem. And they're willing just to throw names around and, if you disagree with them, you're all of a sudden you're woke. Or, you're trying
You're a
to
snowflake.
Exactly.
That's the one I love, is when someone yells that they're a snowflake. And I'm like, but you're being very you yourself are, every accusation is a confession. Stop. Just stop.
Exactly.
Yep.
And the irony in this fandom in particular is that the Doctor doesn't play by those rules, right? If you want to do something, you show potential, you're not actively trying to harm somebody, the Doctor's like, yeah, come tag along, come do the thing with me. You want to help out? Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
The Doctor is very accepting.
Well, exactly. The Doctor's accepting. He'll talk to people that, Doctor, why are you talking to that homeless person? Or why are you talking to, that alien? And it's like, because the alien needs help, or this person, is less fortunate than us. And folks, this is what we're trying to find, the good in everybody. That's what the Doctor's all about. And that's the horrible thing about it is, it's ridiculous that we don't have that. And we don't have that, that people are like, out there. It's just ridiculous. And that we've become so hyper focused on ourselves that they're not looking at the people around them and saying, hey, let's help these people who are less fortunate of all of us. I know that was too woke. I'm sorry. But
next thing you know, we're going to have, a script of Unearthly
Kumbaya.
Child. We need a script of an Unearthly Child with, the American Constitution and Bill of Rights and stuff in it.
Why?
$60.
Unearthly Child wasn't American. It's British. So
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, Shannon Clute actually just said it perfectly. The whole message of Who is to love and learn. Hate only brings destruction. And that's, and that's one of the things I love about the Doctor. He doesn't want to go out when he gives the bad guys chances, hey, I'll give you a chance to, just walk away, or I can take your race to another planet where you guys can control everything and just be on your own. And then when they laugh in the Doctor's face, then that's when, you shouldn't have done that type thing. So,
right.
Well, the Doctor always is trying to de-escalate before giving an ultimatum. And even then, trying to de-escalate the situation, and they don't carry a weapon. Their weapon is a tool. So it's not like they ever carry a firearm.
Come on, hello.
So they're always working towards fixing a problem rather than, compounding it. It's only when it really, we're thinking about Daleks or Cybermen or any other big bad that's they've given a ultimatum of, okay, well, we're just going to be destruction or annihilation of a race or species or what have you. Then, okay, we'll see the Doctor, play the space god and say, nope, we're shutting that down. But usually
Exactly.
it's
No,
a
exactly.
non-lethal means, typically.
Yeah, more often than not, a lot of the villains in the show will be their own demise, right? It's like,
Right.
please don't. I'm giving you a chance. Please don't. They go through. They're like, okay, and they blew themselves up. Well, that's a problem solved.
Well, that's
Mhm.
You know.
Well, exactly. But we did run into that during the Matt Smith era. The whole thing with the silence and the army, with, and coming after the doctor because the doctor was becoming too big. He was becoming
Yeah.
a force to reckon with
Mhm.
and everything. And so, it's just interesting, and even River had to, knock him down a few pegs, which was pretty awesome. Hey, doctor across the galaxy, it means healer. And so it's just amazing, that people, to me, that was some of the best Doctor Who we even had, of the Moffat era. And I love that portion. And here comes the cat again. So, our ratings just went up
Yep.
again.
Yep.
So it's
These are
perfect.
cats. We've had cats on the whole time.
Yeah. So, but that's one of the things with Doctor Who is change. And, I always tell people, if you don't love this doctor, you don't love the showrunner, stick with it. It's going to change in 2 or 3 years. It's going to be a completely different show. And that's the great thing about it. We've lost hosts of Earth Station Who, because they just weren't feeling the love for the show anymore because the doctor had changed, the storylines had changed. And I respected that and everything. But, it's just how you needed to stick with it. And, and what you can stick with.
Well, and we had talked earlier. We asked the question about how do we solve this problem in fandom or whatever else. And I think the answer is just that. Just stick with it, right? If you like what's going on, stick with it. Find a community with which you can talk and you can geek out with them, kind of like we're doing here, right? And it's almost like that one web comic that floats around. Everybody's gathered around talking about something, and someone else is standing outside and just yells something about how much something sucks or how woke it is or whatever else, and they just throw up their thumb like, "Good job, we heard you, awesome," and they keep talking, right?
Yep.
Just have your community, have your quote unquote safe space where you talk to people. So what I do with Star Wars and Star Trek these days, because same kind of thing in those fandoms, and just enjoy what you're enjoying. And eventually the bullies are just they're going to fade away. They're going to stop.
Oh, very
It may take
much
time.
so.
It will take time, but it will happen.
Oh, one of the best feelings in the whole wide world is people who used to laugh at me because of Doctor Who when I was in high school and everything. And because I used to, incorporate Doctor Who into a lot of my artwork that I did in my art classes or stuff like that, or into my illustrations or into my comic strips. I did Doctor Who humor. And they used to like tease the living hell out of me. I'm still friends with a couple of the guys on Facebook, after all these years. And they're huge fans of the new series. And to me, that's the ultimate revenge, type thing. And, and that gets into the whole thing. You might be a bully, you might pick on, people because they like something and everything. And the thing is, it's all something that's going to hit you one way or another. There's TV shows out there or movies I'm not into or anything, but I'm never going to put anybody down because of it or anything. That's just not me. And that's not the type of fandom I want to represent either and everything. So it's just interesting stuff. And that's me on my soapbox for a couple seconds. So it's perfect. So, and that's the cool thing, and if you think about it, the doctor is a healer. And if you think they aren't, could it be that you are the cancer they are trying to cut out? Because if it's hitting you the wrong way, they're not trying to talk to you. they're, you're part of the problem that the doctor's against, and so, type thing. And, you would probably be more prone to want to be in favor of rooting for the Daleks or the Cybermen.
No.
So, but it's interesting stuff. And, I'm looking forward to a new era of Doctor Who. And, I'll fully admit it, watching the Christmas special, and I loved every second of it. But I looked at Judy and I said, this is not my Doctor, era of Doctor Who. They're going for a younger audience than, I am. And I'm fine with that. And, they're going to be they're trying to talk to the next generation. They're talking to 2 generations down even now.
Yeah.
And everything. God, that makes me feel old to say that, but
Well, from you, it's closer to 3 generations. Let's be honest.
shut up. Mr. Graybeard, what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wasn't saying it wasn't also 3 on me.
Well, speaking on generations, one thing I think a lot of the people who get very angry on this is a woke topic or a hot button topic going on in the current show, of even if you go back, you're not gonna, if you yourself watch Classic Who now, and you've never watched Classic Who, there's going to be a lot of things you're not going to catch that were hot button because they were hot button at the time. So it's now a passé topic now. You're not going to catch when one of the soldiers looks at Susan and says, so, is trying to flirt with her and kind of talking down to her, saying, so what are you doing here? Why did you want to become a scientist? And or doing, helping him out. And she's just kind of like, I'm a scientist because I wanted to be a scientist. That was huge back then. Women didn't get to do that. Heck, last month women got to was last month women now have we just celebrated that 50 years, at least in America, that we could have our own credit card.
Yeah,
because we couldn't have finances without our husbands.
Exactly.
And how old is Doctor Who? Sorry.
Exactly.
So
but
you're not going to catch those hot topic ones, but now it's a
Mike
hot
Faulkner,
button.
you're gonna cover your ears on this one, but no. I was listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson a couple days ago on his podcast, and he was talking about Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and he was saying how unrealistic it is now, because if you remember when the aliens came down, there were no scientists there of color. There were no scientists that were not male. And it was just, it depended on the era. And that was the same thing with Doctor Who and everything. And, it's just depends when you watch the shows or the movies because of that. And it just, and that's, that's why movies like, what was it? Escape from the Block, or Attack the Block.
Attack the Block.
Yeah, Attack the Block, and was so groundbreaking because it showed, this from, a different perspective than, just the male white, hetero, view.
Yeah. I mean, looking back on when we've looked at, Classic Who and everything, it always kind of like, I'm well aware, especially when we see, and it's not blatant racism, but it's just kind of like, it's just there because it was there at the time. They didn't know any better. They didn't think like more ahead, like, there's no reason that UNIT, which is made up of United Nations individuals, should be a bunch of white guys. I mean, there's just no reason it should be. But yet,
well, exactly, United Nations all around the world, Exactly.
But it's always like a bunch of, white English guys. And you're kind of like, okay, it's just this division,
Exactly. And you had, like Jerry Chandler saying, Kirk kissing Uhura barely gets a look. But back in the 60s, that made headlines and everything.
And I'll say the reverse of what you're saying, Melanie, is also true, because going through the Timestamps project, I applied a modern lens to the classic era, and It was the arc in space that really stuck out to me with the Fourth Doctor, Sarah Jane, and Harry. And throughout that adventure, Harry keeps referring to Sarah Jane as as old girl, and she very blatantly in his face says, "You call me old girl one more time, and I'll spit in your eye." And there's a former friend of mine who was very upset with me. It's one of the wedges that kind of drove us apart, because he's like, I was like, that's a very feminist statement, right? She's standing up for herself. She's saying, I am not your old girl. I am me, Sarah Jane Smith, journalist. And he was like, no, that's just the way they talked back then. It's like, but that's with the old lens. That's with the classic era lens, which is fine to analyze with. But with a modern lens, Sarah Jane is a feminist icon. Like, you know?
Oh yeah. Or the way the Third Doctor talked to Liz, or to, you know, his other companions, you know, and, you know, the running joke in when they did the Roland Atkinson, you know, Curse of Fatal Death, you know, oh, I'll explain it to you later. Like, and it's like, they don't do that anymore, you know, because they're equals in a lot of ways. You know, the Doctor, you know, explains it to the companions, and, you know, and that was what was great about, you know, Dr. 13 having to explain things to the white guy, you know. It was really awesome. So, and that's one of the great things it does. And I love how, you know, we've seen it, you know, over the course of 60 years, how much the show has evolved. And, you know, but it evolves how society is evolving. And, you know, one of the things that someone wrote, though, it's interesting. I mostly worry about Russell T Davies, who is, you know, 61 years old, properly writing for a 20-year-old and below audience, you know, but hopefully he's bringing in younger writers too, you know, or and such, or having some kind of input.
There's always been that's always the case, though. Every kids show is largely written by significantly out of date humans, and they usually manage to make it work if it's good. And Russell's good.
Oh, Russell's great for that kind of stuff. And folks, Russell's not perfect. You know, there were plenty of episodes that we were ready to light the torches for Russell and everything. So, you know, from the last time he was running it. And so, you know, I'm fully expecting not everything is going to be gold, but, you know, but we're also being realistic here too. And I think he has a good ear for what's going on too. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, the trick is to, especially I think with science fiction in general, I think successful science fiction is to not only like read the room and reflect the times, but also play out something that has potential in the future, whether it's how dangerous something is or how good something can be. Like, I mean, that's, you know, whether it's like, hey, if we head down this, we're going to have a post-apocalyptic world, or if it's going to be like, hey, Star Trek we're going to all be fine. We're going to be fine. There's going to be some rough patches, but we're going to make it through it. And there's hope, right? So you can go one of two ways, but both of them are message oriented by basically saying like, hey, this is, you know, it's reflecting what is happening here, but also giving us some sort of thing about, like estimate about what the future might hold.
Right. Exactly.
For better or for worse.
Exactly. And it should be open for everybody. But, you know, it's interesting. Our friend Mark Heffernan just posted, social media has made it much easier for fans to complain about challenges or changes they really don't like. What we're seeing is the division of fandom in real time. Those that support Wake and those that don't. And that's very true. You know, and social media is also very easy for people to remain anonymous and, you know, put up, you know, you wouldn't come up on a show like this, or, you know, come up to me at a con and start griping about the same things, but you have no problem posting about that on social media and such. And that's one of the crutches with society today, I think. You know, there's bully pulpits, sorry. And, bully puppets would be kind of cool, but, but the pulpits are just, and, for people to stand on and then run and hide from it, too.
Social media is one of the greatest advancements of humankind and one of the biggest mistakes.
Yes. And
It's the
AI is
Jurassic Park
going to
of the
make
internet.
AI is going to make it worse in a lot of ways, because you won't be able to know what's real or what's not.
It's gonna. I think that's gonna help pull that echo chamber for some, not realizing that they're communicating with various different viewpoints and trying to get out there and find more and more information. They're just gonna keep getting the blinders, and now the blinders are being programmed to tell you what to do. But anyway, more science fiction to write.
Exactly. Or, it's interesting, how the show has evolved. What was it that the first Doctor used to just always ask, like, Susan or Barbara, oh, go get me a drink or go get me some tea, or, and everything. We just saw that recently with Vicky in the Space Museum when we reviewed it, oh, go get me a cold drink, dear. And it's just like, nowadays, that the Doctor would end up with that drink poured down his pants or something, so, or over his head, exactly.
Something I've found, and I've said this many times in many ways, the best way to watch, especially classic Who, is to watch it backwards. Start with 8, then 7, then 6. You can watch the seasons in order, but by Doctor. And you really get an interesting view of the cultural shift. If you were to go right back to 1, Hartnell's a big jump in cultural everything, right? It's culture shock to the extreme because it's the 60s. It's different storytelling. It's different attitudes. But if you watch them going backwards, you start to see a little bit more gently that change. And it really helps to put today's changes in perspective.
There's some episodes, the John Nathan Turner era, that probably would be better if you watched it backwards and not in order.
Michael Faulkner, is that the plan? After you caught up, you're going to go back?
No comment.
No, didn't Mike Faulkner's going to start reviewing every Big Finish in order that they came out, and after he's done.
Gotta help him. Gotta help him either way.
And then he's going to look at all, the external media. He's going to look at the comics from 1963 on, and then he's going to look at all the extended universe stuff. It's gonna be awesome.
It's a daily show now.
Okay. Got any fanfics I need to read? Just come right down.
Exactly.
Oh Lord!
Is Tom still in the comments?
Oh, we could send you there, Mike. I could send you some links if you need.
Oh, I'm sure.
Get him his archive of our own link. Here we go.
Well, and this is where it gets scary and funny, folks. But I think, just going to watch Doctor Who with, an open mind, and you'll be fine. And that, I'll fully admit there were periods of Doctor Who I almost walked away. And I know, Mike Gordon, you actually walked away from Doctor Who, in the classic era. You stopped watching it for a bit.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was difficult for me to watch. It's not nearly as easy as it is now to watch Doctor Who, but back then it was, but I was not a big fan of the switch over to Peter Davison. So, so I sort of walked away after Tom left, and but it had nothing to do with Peter Davison's heritage. The fact that it had nothing to do with that. It's just that it's not my Doctor.
Yeah, the only time I almost walked away was Cyber Brigadier, but that was a different story.
And you were
but that
quite
wasn't
you would have been, no one would have blamed you.
no, but it wasn't because of the era or the politics or anything. It was just a really pet story.
Yeah.
Just like so, but it's it's just interesting, and I've always found the Doctor Who community always very welcoming and very open armed. Sure, come in. Even going all the way across country when I went to Gallifrey, I found my Whovians, my friends, and that was what made it awesome. Is this is a whole, literally a continent apart, and it's just interesting that I was able to meet these people who with similar interests and got along great, and and now one of them's even a co-host on this show, so it's pretty awesome. So that's what the great thing about it is. So that's there's a place for everybody, and like we keep on saying, it might not be your Who right now, but find the things that you like about it, and it will change eventually. And we're just at the beginning of a new Doctor. You don't know what this Doctor is going to be like in a season or two. Also, the character's going to evolve, and that's also what makes it interesting. So I think it's pretty awesome. So it's just it's just real interesting to see what happens and everything. And we just lost Dave. His system crashed, so that's Canada for you, so it's okay.
Wow.
Oh.
I just as I'm saying welcoming and everything, I just alienated a whole country. It's okay.
You just
It's Canada. What the hell? So.
Our friends to the north, screw you.
Hey, I did not say that. I did not say that. It was Melanie. No.
How did the war start? Oh, some guy in Georgia.
That's how they all start.
They are all messing at the border, so it's okay. Most of the population is within 100 miles of the U.S.
Pretty sure we are all. Nobody would be surprised if the next World War was started by a podcaster.
Hey, I just got done watching Fallout, where the war was, the world was destroyed by a corporation. So, oops, spoiler.
I mean, that's that's like, that's Terminator. Like that's
like that's all of post-apocalyptic sci-fi right there.
Pretty much, yeah, sure.
Yeah. Whereas Nick says they'll probably just apologize anyway. They're all nice up there, so it's okay. So, anywho, all right. I think Dave is trying to get back in, so let's welcome Dave back to the show.
Oh, hey now.
There he is. You're muted though, dude.
Yeah,
you're muted, Dave.
Perspective.
There we go. You're on my phone.
There we go. So,
well, look, if there's a lot of like the debate on what the definition is, and it depends on who's using it and slinging it around. But if woke traditionally has meant someone who's informed, educated, and conscious of social injustice, and I hope that Doctor Who remains woke for its entire existence, because using that definition, that has to that is, I think, imperative to who the Doctor is. That I can't think of any other. I mean, sure, there's other science fiction that lives up to that too, but Doctor Who really should be inherently like that. The character of the Doctor should be inherently woke using that definition.
Exactly, because the Doctor should always be open to everyone and welcoming to everyone and everything, and also a bit of intelligence to it. And I think that's where people are worried, is they're, do they feel threatened by, the changes? And we just have to wait and watch this space to see what happens with that. And you know what? I'll be along for the ride. I'm hoping everybody else will too. And I think it'll be good. So, that's the great thing. And, I think Nick says it perfectly. My favorite Tom Baker quote along these lines: "The very powerful and the very stupid have one thing in common. They don't alter their views to fit the facts. They alter the facts to fit their views." And it's so true.
Yep.
That is so damn true.
More fitting words have never been spoken.
Okay, you do not have a microphone, my friend, right now. Sorry.
Can you hear me at all?
You sound like you're
You're
about
very-
10,000 miles away and talking on a tin can with a string.
It's your phone.
It's a Canadian thing.
It's a Canadian
There.
phone.
Okay.
Yeah,
Slightly better.
a little
Ever
bit.
so slightly better.
A little
Ever
bit.
so slightly better.
A little bit. Now you're just talking to my phone rather than through my headphones.
Okay.
I also subscribe to Craig Ferguson's definition, which is that Doctor Who is all about the triumph of intellect and romance over brute force and cynicism.
Bingo.
Absolutely.
Bingo, bingo. I'm glad you brought that up, Mikey. And I think that's where I think we should wrap it up. And you know what, folks, thank you for joining us tonight. I think this has been a blast. It's been a very interesting conversation. I like these kind of, things where we actually have to think about it and just not, well, in this episode, this happened and this happened and this happened. This is good. And this is like why I like going to cons and going to the panels and such, because we get good conversation, we get good audience participation, and you know what? It's just great talking to a bunch of Whovians, and that's even better with it and everything. So we'll be back again in 2 weeks, and dare I say it, we will have new Doctor Who to talk about, which is awesome. I know. I'm like a flitter. I'm going, I'm just like so excited about
Kermit
it.
Flail.
Kermit.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know what? It'll be great. I don't expect every episode to be perfect. I really, really don't. But I think this is going to be great to have new Doctor Who. We're going to have great folks on the shows with us. And if you want to join us to talk about any of the new episodes, please drop us a line, feedback@earthstationwho.com. Let me know if you want to, join us for any of the episodes. I know we're going to be doing a double episode for the first one, since they're doing 2 episodes back to back. And, it's going to be, we'll be sitting there waiting and gleeing and gooing and guying, and it's going to be awesome because it's the space babies to start with. So it's perfect to do. So I'm very much looking forward to it, folks. On behalf of myself, thank you so much for listening to Earth Station Who. You could find us wherever fine podcasts are found. And we are also up on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, you name it, we're up there. And, you'll be able to see these shiny smiley faces up on YouTube pretty much right away. So definitely check it out. Definitely would love it. And if you like what you see and you have a couple seconds, like and subscribe and give us a thumbs up. We would really appreciate it. All right, let's thank our guests for being here tonight. Mr. Mike Faulkner, thank you as always, sir.
Oh, thank you so much. When you contacted me and said, do you want to do this show? I was like, absolutely. This is something I absolutely believe in, watching all these episodes from the beginning of the franchise. So I appreciate the offer to come back.
Oh, it's always great. Anything you want to promote?
Yeah, we've talked about it a couple times, kind of alluded to it. I have been running something called the Timestamps Project over on my website, creativecriticality.net. I've been doing that for, heaven help me, about 10 years now, where I basically went back to the very beginning and started with Hartnell and walked all the way through episode by episode. And to that end, I've just wrapped up Series 12 with Jodie Whittaker, and I'm starting into Flux this week. So the end is near.
What the flux? the flux is with him. It's awesome.
So if you are interested in such shenanigans,
They do have treatment for that now, Michael.
Right.
Yeah, there is a shot.
An ointment or something.
Yeah.
Or something.
So if you are interested in such shenanigans, you can find that and so much more at my website, creativecriticality.net.
And he also posts it up all over social media and also up on the ESO webpage.
Yes, sir.
So definitely check it out. Of course, Ms. Melanie Dean, thank you as always. It's great to see your smiley face.
Oh, thank you for inviting me back and letting me chit chat with you guys and talk woke and talk anytime you guys want to talk Doctor Who. I've always have a wonderful time with every panelist on here.
Oh, thank you. Are you going to be at any cons or anything you want to promote?
Going to be San Diego Comic-Con is coming up in July. I'll be in the art show there, and then Tampa Bay will be Comic-Con will be in August. So those are the next two. And you can always keep an eye on me here at Pieces of Melee on Instagram and all that kind of fun on the social media.
Awesome. We will have a link to it up on our show notes. So it'll be cool. And Mr. Dave Chapman, always great to see you, my friend.
I love being here. Sorry for the technical snafu there at the end, but thank you guys for having me. I love it. I love coming and chatting with you guys.
It's always great. I had the technical problems at the beginning. You finished us off, so it was perfect.
Perfect little bookend.
Exactly. It's perfect. Anything you want to promote, sir?
You can find all of my tabletop review and other content at therathole.ca. Social medias is either .ca or .dotca, depending if that particular platform lets you have a dot in there. Other than that, I am tentatively going to be at Origins Game Fair and or Gen Con in Columbus and Indianapolis, respectively. I'll probably be doing some live watch parties over on the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS for the new episodes.
Excellent. Hopefully I'll participate in a couple of those this year.
Please.
It will be tons of fun. And Mr. Mike Gordon, we've made it through another one, my friend.
We did, and as always, it's my pleasure.
Anything you want to promote, sir?
Sure. I do want to promote, of course, the podcast that I do monthly. We do the Dragon Con report. So we've just released the episode, the April episode of that last week. And I've got a new podcast that is just starting up this week. If you like to hear me rant and rave about shows from the 60s, then this will be for you, because the Drew Leiter from the Earth Station DCU podcast and I will be tackling the Batman 60 series episode by episode. And we start that this week, and we will be releasing a show every week. It's called Bat Chums. So we will be doing that. And that's going to be a lot of fun. So
that sounds awesome, my friend. Awesome. Look for it. And you know what? So that way each week you can, do all the wonderful puns that Robin has and, talk along with it and, and look at Frank Gorsh's mustache. It's awesome. It's awesome.
We'll get the corrected version of that on our show. Yes, sir.
Of course. And, it's awesome. And I can't wait to watch you guys review the giant clam episode. So it'll be perfect,
Yep. I'm sure that's coming. We haven't hit it yet, but I'm sure it's coming.
You got like 2 seasons still to go with that one. So it's awesome. All right, folks. Thank you as always. Please, check out my other podcast, Tales from Hollywood Land. I have a great time talking all things old time Hollywood, and it's a great podcast. Find it up here on part of ESO Network, wherever where fine podcasts are found. But folks, the big thing is Doctor Who is almost here, folks. This is the thing we got to talk about. We got to talk about it. We have Ruby. We got the Doctor. We got so much good stuff ahead of us. I'm not so sure about the Beatles episode, but I will go in with an open mind, but that's a whole different story. Okay, folks, thank you so much for listening. My name is Mike Faber on behalf of all of us, and Mary Ogle sends her regards. Sorry, she said she couldn't make it tonight. We will see you here next time on Earth Station Ho. Peace, and we are done. Ciao, everyone. Bye. See ya.